Okay, I'm gaveling us in at 9:15 a.m., and we're all going to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Commissioner, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Okay. So the purpose of this morning's gathering is a budget workshop, and just because we are taking a record, the clerk, no, we have no clerk here, so we're not doing any of that? No recording?
We are recording.
Okay, so it is a recording, and it is an open and posted meeting, correct?
Yes, and
Okay.
it is being televised as well.
Okay, wonderful. Well, just for the record, Commissioner Chesney cannot be here this morning with us, so we are still in quorum. And we will begin with Grants Administration, and Maria is going to lead us with her budget packet.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for giving me the time to discuss our proposed budget for the next fiscal year. We're a small but mighty department, so we appreciate your support of our department. I did have to write out my notes so I don't go off on tangents and I can stay within my time limit. So I'm going to use the words like first person pronouns, me, I, Natalie's name. But I want you to know that this budget was prepared with the department in mind. Not so much myself, not so much Natalie. I'm fully cognizant that I may not be here tomorrow. Natalie might not be here tomorrow. So I really wanted to do what was best for the county and for this department moving forward. So our budget proposes a cost savings to the county of approximately $15,060. I am proposing the deletion of the grants assistant position and the reclassification of the grants writer and grants administrator position as we take on the duties of that assistant position and become a more proactive department rather than a reactive one as we have in the past. I'm also proposing a title change for these positions from grants administrator to director of grants administration and from grants writer coordinator to deputy director of grants administration. I know this is a bold request, but I truly feel it is in the best interest of the department. I did hire a new grants assistant in early April. Her last day is actually this Friday. I was upfront and honest with her that I was deleting the position, and so she was seeking employment elsewhere. So I did write an almost 2-page justification, sorry Lisa, on the reasons that I made these decisions, so I hope you'll take the time to read them. But if you haven't already, I won't give you the long version right now, but basically when the grants assistant was hired, it was quickly apparent that although I had high hopes for the additional person in my office, it kind of interfered with that balance that Natalie and I had created since we had been a 2-person department since November when Roxy left. So, a lot of those clerical duties that she did just could be more easily accomplished by one of us. Just because grants takes, it's a specialized field, and I can assure you that, what we do on a daily basis is far from routine. So we're not constantly doing purchase orders where those tasks can be handed down to the grants assistant. So that was kind of my thinking and behind, deleting that position. And then I did talk to Natalie about taking on those additional duties. So we are currently managing 38 open contracts that total over $6.3 million. We now have 22 applications pending approval for a total of $15.8 million. And now more than ever, we are submitting federal grants rather than going after kind of the same funding sources that we have year after year, which is what had been done in the past. And while that's okay, I do want to do more. So there's so many needs in the county, and we want to be more aggressive in trying to get funding for, to address those needs. Just in the couple past months, we've collaborated with Judge Klein on her pretrial domestic violence office, Judge McCoy on his family drug court, which that had been in existence but had never even been considered for grant funding before. So these, that was exciting to be able to collaborate with him. We just had a meeting yesterday with Shara in the DA's office about 3 upcoming federal grants that we want to apply for to address their victim service needs. We're also hoping to partner with community organizations for cancer prevention research and services. That's something, at least in the last 10 years that I've been in the department, that we've never done before. And And as discussed in the last legislative update on the June 19th Commissioners Court, Nueces County will have an opportunity pretty soon for funding for transportation, flood planning, mitigation, drainage, mental health, and other areas. The GLO has also been given $4.3 billion that'll eventually be coming down for mitigation and resiliency projects. So there's a lot of disaster funding that's going to be coming to Nueces County that we will be managing. So, and I do understand that I'm appointed by Commissioners Court, and I do want to take your priorities into consideration at all times, but I do feel like we can do more for a lot of the other county departments, and I want to extend our services and our support to those departments. So in regards to the actual position reclassifications, I did do a little bit of comparing. So Webb County's Director of Economic Development is their equivalent to my current position. He's currently compensated at $84,630 a year. Now Webb County's population is actually 100,000 people less than Nueces County. Tarrant County compensates their HIV grants manager at $81,692 a year. I know they're obviously larger than us, but I mentioned that that's their HIV grants manager, so that grant person is managing just one specific program. Now, in regards to Natalie's position, Burnett County, which only has a population of 45,017, compensates their grants administrator, which would be the equivalent to Natalie's position, at $57,637 a year. The City of McAllen compensates their water administration grants and contracts coordinator at $29.96 an hour. The pay I'm requesting for Natalie would be $28.40 an hour. And then again, I mentioned this is their water administration grants coordinator, so it's just one specific program rather than what we do. Our knowledge and experience has to run the gamut of all county services. We just don't do one specific program. We do county parks, we do Colonia projects. Just recently, we've taken over all the disaster recovery funding. So we're the ones working with FEMA on the public assistance grants. We're working with the Texas Division of Emergency Management for hazard mitigation. We do law enforcement grants. We're just now starting to work with the DA's office, some of the district courts, as well as, our big veterans grant that we're really proud of every year. And it kind of goes on from there. So when I turned in my budget packet, I didn't just turn it in and forget it. It's been at the forefront of my mind. And I recently had the chance to make a couple of changes to that packet. Thank you, Lisa. And the changes was to the titles of the position. So my motivation really for the job title changes is because back in 2016, I was taken from, when I was in the grants writer position, I was taken from a salaried employee to an hourly employee. I just don't feel that the duties that Natalie currently does is it warrants a salaried position. So at that time, back in 2016, I was told that there was a salary threshold that needed to be met, but I've since looked at the federal law and that just does not apply. So I'm looking to reclassify Natalie's position and also revise the job description to reflect her to be a salaried employee. So I'd really like the Commissioners Court support on that. I think the misconception is that our department is more of an administrative and clerical type of department. And, while we do some of those duties, our positions require specialized knowledge and we must exercise discretion, independent judgment. We do more than just, submit grant applications and hope they get funded. We take everything from the project idea to application, to implementation, to compliance, and then eventually to closeout. So there's so much more that goes on in the background. So I wanted to take an opportunity to kind of discuss a little bit of these duties. So we are involved in the purchasing process and work really closely with Michael and Annette in their department because a lot of grants require specific language that needs to be put in the budget packet, the bid advertisements, and then, of course, any contracts that are awarded. We work really closely with the county attorney's office. Belinda is my best friend over there. And then many grants also require us to do environmental review. And when we do that, we have to conduct it using guidelines established by the federal government. We also act as the labor standards officer for those grants that require us to follow Davis-Bacon laws. And that entails us, we have to verify weekly payrolls for all the construction contractors. We visit the job site. We actually interview the employees to make sure that they're receiving the correct wage rate that's established by the Department of Labor. So in conjunction with Anna and Dale in the auditor's office, we also prepare drawdowns, reimbursement requests. We prepare progress, programmatic reports, and we're in a constant state of coordination with state, federal agencies, engineers, construction contractors, as well as our county elected officials and department heads. So I'm currently in the process of updating our job descriptions. I wish I had them ready for you today. Unfortunately, I don't. But they, our job descriptions haven't been updated in over 10 years. And they refer to agencies that aren't even in existence anymore, and it just does not.
And probably new ones that are in existence.
Oh, yeah, definitely, definitely. So it doesn't reflect our current job duty, so, I really want to update those. And then we're in the process of updating other things. So, I know we're doing a good job, but I know we can do better. And I also gave a lot of thought into the short and long-term goals that I put in the packet. Lisa actually complained a little because I had too many pages and too many attachments. So I went from 6 pages to 2, so I'm able to compromise.
But she has some people that do none, so you balance out.
Got it all in this.
That's great.
But it's there.
Yeah, and that's why it's so teeny tiny in your packet, but I originally had, anyway. But I hope you take time to read that. My biggest goal is to do kind of what you're doing already with the capital improvements plan. So while I see the capital improvements plan as more of equipment and technology needs and infrastructure needs of the county, I'm looking for a strategic plan for the county to where I want innovative project ideas. There's, victim services, there's services that need to be expanded or can be improved, and I kind of want to create a plan for the county as a whole to move forward. And that way we can say, this isn't just an idea that came up with on the fly. This is something that's been planned for, and I think that gives us a stronger, justification when we're actually seeking the fundings, makes our grant application stronger and more competitive. So that's my long-term goal. And then we're also in the process of updating our grants administration policy. It refers to a grants review committee that was dissolved recently. And then we actually need to explain a little more detailed processes to be followed that we want to start implementing. And then, while I would love to wow you with numbers, unfortunately, we should be capable of that, but we're not. We're currently managing our grants in an Excel spreadsheet. That's not the best way to do business. No offense to Dale and the One Solution system, but there is a grants module within the One Solution system, but it's just not dynamic enough for the needs of our department. We're more the programmatic side rather than the financial side. So I did inquire recently, and I did let Dale know regarding an indirect cost rate and a cost allocation plan. So this would, just kind of moving forward, and this isn't in the budget packet, but I wanted to let you know kind of what we're working on in the background to try to improve our budget in the future. So for one reason or another, we stopped using an indirect cost rate back in like 2010. The one in 2010 was 25.58%, and basically that allowed us to take off, to claim indirect costs on grants, which basically gave us special revenue. We haven't been collecting that again, since at least 2010. For whatever reason. So I've since learned that there's a change in the federal law that will allow us, if we do establish this cost allocation plan and this indirect cost rate, it will be counted as cash match. So I know I come to y'all, and the biggest hurdle is that cash match. So if we were to get an indirect cost rate established for, let's say, 35%, if a grant requires a 25% match, it's easily met by providing that cost allocation plan and that negotiated indirect cost rate. So we are hoping to eventually start earning special revenue for the county. And part of what I want to kind of use that special revenue for is a grants management system. I would love to be able to sustain that just kind of on our own. But again, I'm waiting on a quote to try to get that in place. So in the future, hopefully, we can earn some special revenue to the county. So, I think that's all I have. I hope that gave you a little better insight into why I'm requesting this, I feel like small changes that I'm requesting. But if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. If you want to meet with me one-on-one, I'm definitely available. So with that, I'll take any questions that y'all have.
I have a question, sure. So, it's always appreciated when we can be leaner in our budgets. I mean, I think that that's what we're looking for, to run a more conservative budget, so, because we know we have so many other expenses and priorities, and it needs to all balance out. So we appreciate when you and other departments come in and want to reduce. My only concern is okay, reduction of staff, which you've decided that's important, and you can help spread that annual salary that was used to provide for the rest of the department to receive compensation that's comparable, right, to other counties, other positions. I'm all for that as well. My thing is that I think is for Natalie, she was in that third position. So when Roxy left and you stepped up, Natalie was well prepared to come and step up and take your position. My concern with eliminating the third position is that you don't have somebody already homegrown, because like you said yourself, it's a process. It's years of learning and just being exposed to how to deal with all the state and federal and everything else that's going on. That would be my only concern, was that you're losing out on a person. And I just worry, because I've been around public policy for a while now, is that when we see reductions, then we end up finding we have to hire a vendor or a contractor at a higher rate later on down the line, because staff can't handle the workload. You're wanting to take on more. I believe you should. You're doing an excellent job, and you're doing a lot of work that I think, not only for the Commissioners Court, but rightfully for the entire county. So with all that said, this is not negative, but this is just a concern that, yes, I agree, we should have a reduction in cost when we can get rid of staff that's not, the position that's not efficient, let's do it. But I just worry that what if you or Natalie leave, then you're down to one person to handle arguably one of the most important, if not the most important position in this county, which is to bring in outside funds that has little to no cost to our taxpayers.
So I did take that into consideration, and there is, I think, a kind of long paragraph in that 2-page justification that's in the packet. So yes, Natalie was in that position, and the way historically the department has been run since I came on board in 2009 in the grants department, it almost has been run by two people. When I first started, the grants assistant at the time had chronic attendance issues. She had medical issues. She ended up either being terminated or she resigned. I don't remember what the circumstances were. When Natalie came on, and Natalie will be the first to tell you that there was a lot of downtime. And it wasn't until Roxy started going out on FMLA. I think in the time that Natalie's been there, Roxy had gone on about like 4 FMLA leaves. And that's when Natalie was able to kind of step it up and learn more about the department. But historically, it kind of has been a 2-person department. And so I did take that into consideration. I do know that, yeah, it takes a long time to groom somebody to learn, the grants field. And in a perfect world, I would be asking for another grants writer, coordinator position. But I'm not ready to do that at this point. I really feel, and I did sit down and talk to Natalie about, the additional duties. And I really feel I'm confident in what I've submitted in the budget. And again, going through that history, and again, it's a little more explained in that narrative that I had included. But yeah, there's some history there that kind of gives that background of it just being a 2-person department.
I understand, and I read through most of it. I think I got a good sense of what your direction was, and that's why I still would say.
Yeah.
And
You're missing out.
Commissioner,
You're missing out.
it's an interesting comment, and I've kind of cheated here in the sense I've had the pre-discussion with Maria, and we brought this up as well, and I think the consensus is, here comes a compliment. If we could find another Maria, then whatever she's earning, I promise you the rate of return for her would be great. And I've encouraged her that she needs to keep her sort of eyes out for that person, because if you've technically, I mean, if you found the right person that had the right experience, this county would only benefit by having another person like her, or like Natalie, quite frankly, in her slot. But the difficulty, and you may want to expand upon this, I'm watching your time, and we started a little late, so you still have some more time in your 30 minutes, is that you might want to expand upon the idea that at the level that your third person is, you're not finding anybody that's adding value, sadly. And that's just because of the classification that third person's in. So the time that you're taking to train that person to do is really taking away from your job. That's what I understood you to say, but I think you might want to expand upon that, and then, of course, take the rest of the questions.
So this was a learning experience for me. I've never had to kind of train a grants assistant before. And again, I had high hopes when she came on board. And, nothing against her. It's kind of a delicate situation since she's still kind of working in my office. But we just don't have enough, I guess, of the routine clerical duties that you would hand down to somebody in that kind of level. I really need somebody with a higher education level, because, okay, so let me use the example of, a progress report. We manage quarterly, monthly, all these reports, and to hand those down to the grants assistant, you have to know the background of the project. It's not something I can hand her and she can kind of take and run away with it. I mean, we're still working on Cindy Park, and that project has been going on at least since I came on board. And that's, we're talking 10 years of background information that, somebody in that kind of lower level position, I hate to say that, would need to know. And it takes, whereas that report, if I were to do it, would take me 15 minutes, it's taking me 2 hours to kind of train this person. And honestly, right now, we're moving at a fast pace, and I just don't have that time.
You see, and this is where I kind of have a concern too. You guys do a good job. I want to say y'all need help, and I think you need help. I think you need help in your department. When I see people cutting back staff, because I know later on you're going to come back and say, I need another staff, and now we're going to pay more money. I'm hearing you say something, Maria, that really, when you came on board, I guess Roxy, you weren't a Roxy. Roxy trained you, right? Mm-hmm. So we're not going to find another Maria, but you got to train her to be a Maria, because that's what your job is. You're not going to find nobody to jump on your shoes, and because your shoes are already bigger than what they were before, because you had somebody else to train you, and same thing with Natalie, is that she's moving up, so evidently she must have the qualifications to be where you are now, right? Because you moved up, or where you were before when Roxy was here. So I think that I just don't want to cut yourself short. That's what I don't want, because, sooner or later you're going to say, wait a minute, I need that third person, and you're not going to have a third person. If you have that much time down, I mean, not that I know of, I never knew you had that much time down, but because I know that when we have grants, when we have projects, and I know that we go out there, we interview the guys about the jobs and they're being paid, and that's normally on a routine basis when you have grants that you have to comply with, that you got to ask the employees how much they're getting paid on time, all those other questions, and that's not like it's on an everyday basis. It's just like, at least twice during the grant period, or 3 times, or whatever it is. So, I really am concerned here that, okay, we're going to cut bond staff to raise up the salaries, and maybe we should raise up the salaries, but I'm really worried about not. And when it comes to doing your matching, you're going to do your time to match. When you're matching yours and you're matching Ellie's, how are you going to find the time to do the other one when you're matching? When you got to give 35% to this grant, you got to give 35% to this grant. You're going to give 30% to this grant. So now we got 4 grants, and you're going to give 30 to each grant. So of course, in paper we can do whatever we want to do, right? But I'm just saying, I just don't want you to cut yourself short, because I think in the long run, we got to train somebody, because to be ready. I mean, to be ready to go, just like you were trained to be ready to go. You know, Nelly has been trained to be ready to go. So, you know, when I see departments cutting back just to raise salaries, to me, that's a problem. I mean, I think we need to manage that a little bit better. We're saying, you know what, I was hoping you say, you know what, I need a third person, you know, and I need more money for that third person.
So that's where the indirect cost rate comes. That's why I mentioned the cost allocation plan and the indirect cost rate, because that alone is going to save us a lot of the timekeeping that we do to like document our in-kind as match. It will already be done. We won't have to do kind of all that record keeping. So that alone will help us with that kind of administrative detail on a lot of the grants that we do, especially when we're doing in-kind, because we do try to do in-kind because, you know, honestly, we just kind of don't have that cash match available.
And let me interject here. So we've been talking a lot about this over the last few months, and that's technology is helping us not necessarily replace personnel, but enhance personnel. And I think that if we had a job opening that was more like a Natalie, Maria would agree with all of us that a third person would be welcome. But that's not the case here. And I want to make certain that we all hear a department head telling us that she can do without, and that this person is not helping, but is rather taking away from her department. And what you don't know, and I guess we hadn't had a chance to talk about it here, is that yesterday you also shared with me that in this cost allocation, if we purchase this software, then we can go back up to 2 years and recuperate some costs that we were not able to recuperate. And so we're going to be able, I think you are going to come to us with some requests that will enhance your department and enhance what you and Natalie are doing. But it's always been a two-person department. And in this case, technology can be your third person, I think.
Well, definitely. So, you know, one of the things that when Natalie was grants assistant was keeping track of our grants, and right now that can be better managed through software. Again, you know, we're managing it through an Excel spreadsheet that kind of, you know, it overwrites the data. It doesn't keep historical data. I want to be able to provide you with a list that will quickly say, these are the grants that you have, you know, going on in your department. We kind of just don't have that capability right now, and it takes a little more time. So the judge is right. That's the reason why I mentioned, you know, the cost allocation plan, the indirect cost. We will hopefully start earning special revenue just on the 4.3 GLO disaster recovery money that we have right now. I'm expecting to earn $100,000 for our department by doing a lot of the work that's allowed for general administration, which is project delivery costs, which is grants administration. We're going to do a lot of that stuff in-house. Yes, we did hire a consultant, but, you know, we are going to minimize their tasks to handle what we can in-house, what we know we're capable of, and then all of the other duties, like the environmental assessment. It's not hard, it's just time-consuming. A lot of the labor standards work, we're going to contract out, and that is no cost to the county. That's coming straight from the grant. So that's why we're going to eventually earn special revenue so we can take care of like these other smaller needs that we have in-house and at no cost to the county. So we are hoping to start earning special revenue as early as, you know, the end of this year or the beginning of next
Yeah,
calendar year.
I'd like to try it this way, you know, for this fiscal year, and then of course reevaluate and see how, you know, you are able to do it. You're going to save the county money, and you are going to take on the responsibilities, but you're also proposing something that's very important to me, which is that you need to be paid commensurate with some of the other. There's a reason we're not getting someone in that third spot, and it's because of the pay. And also in Natalie's position, it's an hourly position, but the classification and the work that she's doing is not an hourly job. She's having to meet deadlines on Saturdays. She's having to do things that are, quite frankly, more overtime looking, because that's the way the nature of grants works. So, I mean, I like this scheme very much. I also always look to see, I don't want to cut someone that we really need for the sake of cutting. But most of the time, budget packets come in the opposite. They're asking for a request in. This is an opportunity, commissioners, to let a department head who really understands her department more than anybody else sort of try it her way after she's already tried it another way and it did not work out to her favor. And I'm going to be honest with you, she's doing a very nice job in the presentation, but I got to spend over an hour and a half with her yesterday, and we went over absolutely everything with a fine-tooth comb. And so that's why I have the knowledge of the eCivis software that I think could be a game changer. I also want to point out that your goal, number 2, is very important and cost very little money, but must be adhered to, and that's that IT, needs to have a grants administration page on the county's website. I mean, that is absolutely essential for transparency, but it'll also help you be able to sort of message out to everybody in the county and around who's looking at our web, what our grants department is doing. And again, that's something that you could put someone clerical on, but in this case, only IT can make that happen. So even your goals, I don't see that are very good goals, don't require a third person, but they require collaboration with other departments.
I have a couple of questions. The cost allocation plan, the software you're talking about, how much is it, or an estimate?
I'm working on it and getting an estimate.
We'll tell her the first one, the cheaper model, so to speak.
Well, so JBI, which is Justice Benefits Incorporated, had done our cost allocation plan back in 2010. They gave me a flat fee of $12,500. I actually do have about $25,000 in an old special revenue. I think it's Department 0132 that I was going to use for that. But I did a demonstration with eCivis that explained that they can also do that cost allocation plan. In addition to that, they will go back 2 years because the law will allow that. So if we choose them to do our indirect cost rate, they will, off of percentage, so at no cost to the county, will go back for our grants for 2 years and recoup whatever indirect costs that we might have missed that we didn't claim because we didn't have that indirect cost rate for the past 2 years.
Okay, I'm a believer in the department head kind of telling us what they need to do, because you do know you're a department, but I also see the other side of it too. What's to say you don't have to go on FMLA? You could, and then you'd have one person left. I'm a believer in cross-training, and if we don't have that third person to do, and I think you ought to invest in people. Sometimes they don't have to have the education in exactly the thing you're looking for, but they can rise to the occasion and learn it. But it takes patience and time, and I know you don't have that right now. Not patience, but time. So I can just see it both ways, but I think we definitely need to consider it, what you proposed.
So
Thank
my
you.
question is, what if Natalie, you can't bring her up to your position, or what? Or do you have to, is that something, so Natalie's she's a position right now. I don't know what is the position we're talking about? I don't
Here,
even
let
know.
me give you this.
What's it, I mean, eventually you guys discuss everything else before here,
There's
but.
right now there's 3 positions in the department. The grants assistant is the clerical position. Natalie is the grants writer coordinator that I would like to change to deputy director, since she is kind of my second, my right hand more than an assistant.
Okay.
And then, I'm grants administrator,
Just
but
don't give me the title. So we got a grant director, right?
yes, grants
And you
administrator.
want to bring her up to assistant grant director?
Yes, a deputy director for grants.
And what that would be doing
And that's-
what you were
and it's-
doing? Or what?
It's doing, because she's more than just kind of, I feel like her title right now and the way the job description's
Believe me,
written, she's more of an
I
assistant.
agree with you. I mean, she should be moved up. That's what I'm saying. She should be moved up, but there should be another Natalie somewhere, because, you got to train somebody else. And I understand what Commissioner was saying. I mean, something, forbid that nothing happens, but it does happen. What are we going to do? I mean,
The problem is these grants are not, if that's our wish, bring in a full-blown Natalie, bring in another one, because at where you are, you're getting a clerical assistant. You're not getting anybody who understands these grants. Restore, Rebuild, Go Mesa, you need to look at these grants. They're so complex. You don't just get to bring in somebody at a clerical level. We need to change the department completely. Just so you know, Harris County, Galveston County, well, not Harris, let's forget Harris. Galveston has how many people? 7?
Webb County has 7.
Webb County has 7. I mean, look, I am for more people, but you cannot put them at a clerical position. It's not a trainable thing. It's not the same skill set. You need somebody who has a college degree or has somebody who has a background in grants to handle these grants. They're so competitive, so complex. We're looking at 3 grants right now in the future that will have billion-dollar buckets of money, and the reporting alone is complex. So if we want to have another Natalie, I'm all for it, but that's a completely different budgeted item. That's somebody at the $44,000 level.
And we
Not-
don't have the money for that. So I think you have to work, excuse me, Judge, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go
I
ahead.
think we have to work with what we've got. And so I'm not against just giving you the opportunity to try it and see what happens. I'm just not. Because I think a really good grant writer pays their salary, no doubt.
And again, that's why I mentioned the cost allocation plan, the indirect cost, and hopefully the special revenue that we'll start getting into our department. And if we do have to contract out, we will be able to pay for those in-house and not have to ask for money for the general fund for things like that.
And that's good to know.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm going, and that's the only reason why I mentioned that, because that wasn't in the budget packet, so I wanted to make sure I pointed that out. And so going back to the cost allocation and plan, I mean, it's not just gonna help my department, it's gonna help, and I know Commissioner Chesney's not here, it'll help Scott in his department, it'll help the health department, all county grants. So
It'll
it's
help
not
us,
hard.
right?
Oh, definitely.
If she brings in that allocation, then those dollars go back to the departments, or where does that allocation wind up?
It depends on how the indirect cost allocation is derived. If it's part of the function that we have, it works to recoup some of costs for our general fund, for our road fund, for our inland parks, island parks, then they would go back to the department that helped create the indirect costs. And mostly if the general fund, it'd go to the general fund, but a lot of times we use Edward's salary and stuff for his inland parks to do some indirect match, it would go back to 170.
Gotcha.
So wherever you use a match, that's where he goes to?
Yes.
Wherever you use the match, okay. Well, my thought is that it sounds like there's a will to make your department bigger, and that's exciting, because I believe that you can get a rate of return for every person you put in grants. It just has to be the right person at the right level, and I'm wondering if you would agree with that.
I definitely agree.
Okay.
Definitely agree. Again, in a perfect world, I would be asking for another, deputy director position. But I just know, fiscally and actually, right now with the timeframes that we are working on things, that's just not in the best interest of my department at this time.
Right, okay. Are there any other questions? I'm going to try to keep us timely, and believe it or not, that wasn't too bad. It was about 35 minutes, so you did good. Any other questions, though, before she leaves?
May I ask a question?
Sure.
I know that sometime the county, you get your degrees here, correct?
Yes.
Did you ladies have it when you were first hired?
I
of you?
I think I had my bachelor's degree when I got hired as the grants writer, and then Natalie earned her bachelor's while she was here.
That's awesome. So we need to remember that too. That's good as well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, the next one, let me go back to my cheat sheet here. Oh, yes, constables, precinct 1, welcome. Isn't it nice not to go first?
Sometimes.
No, you didn't need to bring the budget packet. You only needed to bring it if you had an extra supplemental.
Okay, well, you guys got it there. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Rosas with the Precinct 1 Constable's Office.
Okay.
Some of y'all might know me, some of y'all don't. My name is Lieutenant Mark Cantu. We're here this morning to explain our budget requests for this fiscal year. Some of it is, I need, some of it is just necessities. Last year, we were asked to cut back on our budget, which we did, and most of the monies that I cut back on that year are the monies that I'm short this year. As we know, everything gets more expensive as we go on. One of the major concerns that I have is vehicle maintenance. My vehicles, pretty much honestly, these Chevys that we got are junk. We never should have bought them, but that's nor here nor there. We have them. So whenever I have to fix one of those vehicles, it just it just goes up and up and up and up. They're just not made to be law enforcement vehicles. And when we use them in a law enforcement capacity, they just go bad. And fortunately, we're getting rid of them slowly but surely, but I still have several of them that are in my fleet, and they're just cost too much money to fix them. So with that being said, I'm actually short. I had to move some monies over to my maintenance budget because I was pretty much at zero. And I was able to get some money moved over to finish out this fiscal year. Last year I asked for 10,000 also. I was granted 7,500, but I turned around and gave the 7,500 back because we were asked to cut our budgets. And then, so if I'd have gotten those 7,500, I probably would have been okay for the rest of the year. Now, until we get rid of those cars and fizzle them out with new vehicles, it's going to continue to be a problem because, like I said, they're very, very expensive to fix. And I don't have a choice. It's either fix them or do without. And I don't have the luxury like PD does. Their car breaks, they call a wrecker, they go pick up another one, they go back out there. We don't have that luxury. Sheriff's Department's the same way. They have that luxury. We don't. I have 8 deputies, I have 8 cars, and that's it. I don't have any spares. So when a car breaks down, I either have to double up an officer or we double up on a unit, which means now I got a unit out there for 16 hours versus the 8 hours that we work, which puts a toll on a vehicle when you're having to use it 2, 3, 4 days a week constantly. So, with that being said, those Chevys, they're not built for that. And one of the cool things that I saw for next year is that we're going to SUVs, which is a good thing. I know they're a little bit more expensive, but in the long run, I think they're going to save us a lot more money. I think this year's the last year we're going to get the Taurus, and I got one coming. The vehicle that I'm turning in right now, I spent close to $4,000 on it because it just went bad. The transmission went bad, the timing chain went out, and I had no choice but to fix it because I need the car. I'm waiting on that new vehicle. I don't know when I'm going to get the new vehicle, but hopefully it's soon. But if we can fizzle these cars out, some of this maintenance cost, they should come down. My supplies, the same thing. We gave back $1,000 on my office supplies, and we're like $200 is what I got left. We do a lot. When the office supplies, we do a lot of mailing out, like for forcibles and stuff like that. We're required by law to mail them out. So sometimes we send out stuff, envelopes, mail, just a lot. I think one of our printers went out. We had to purchase a printer also. That comes out of your supplies. So with that being said, the year before that, I was good, so I gave up the $1,000, thinking that I'd be good this year. And it's going to be tight. I had to kind of put a stop on supplies and just get whatever we really, really need because I think we got about 400 total left in my budget for the rest of the year. And I don't have any money to pull from anywhere else. So I can't come to you and say, well, give me this to put over here because there's nothing there for me to pull from. So with that being said, I'm asking for that $1,000 back. I'm asking for the $10,000 in my maintenance budget to be put back, or the 75 really that I asked for last year, but I'm asking for 10, and that should, hopefully, I won't have to come back next year and say, you know what, I need to move money over because I'm out of funds in my maintenance. Now, the people that work on my vehicle, they hate me because I nickel and dime them to death. And I get this all the time. It's not your money. You're right. It's your money. And I'm trying to save the county money because at the end of the day, once I spend this money, if you guys don't have any money, where am I going to get the money to fix my cars? There's no money available. And we're all crunching numbers. We're all crunching money, and I understand that. But there's some things that I just have to have in order to continue to function. And while our main responsibility is, Judge says, is the security for the JP's office, among that, we have a lot of other responsibilities that we also do, the civil process, and we take calls, for service from people. Our department is in the hub of the city. So when PD's hurting for people, they start calling us, they dispatch us to calls. So sometimes we gotta go out there and answer calls. We're not gonna tell them we don't answer calls, because we're law enforcement officers first. Everything else comes in second. So the 10,000 that, for my maintenance, I need, and I keep up with the maintenance on the tires and, you know, the oil changes, and, you know, I had one guy that was charging me like $140 for an oil change, you know, and I found somebody that's doing it for 80. So guess where I'm going? For the 80. You know, well, why? Because you're charging me too much. I mean, I can't pay that. Even though it's not my money, I just can't pay it. So with that being said, I'm asking for those two things in a budget increase for my office supplies and my maintenance. Now, one of the other things I'm also asking for is an additional 6,000, but I think that comes out of the capital outlay for some body cams. I have some body cameras right now. I have 14 of them. 8 of them have gone bad.
Excuse me, just so I can follow, where is that one? What does it come under, the body cams?
Page 4, your capital outlay.
Page 4?
Yeah, the capital.
At the top, it says capital, non-capital, it's right before the personnel. It's on the screen.
It's on the screen.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Now,
I got it now here too.
we did some research on the cameras that we got now. I believe they're Axons, correct, Sarge? Axon cameras we have now? And we purchased those through a grant. And by the way, the grants people, they're the bomb, because they've helped us. As a matter of fact, these right here, this is a perfect example. 2 years it took us to get those vests, but we finally got them.
But no fault to them.
It's no fault to
state.
them. The state held up the monies, and we applied for a grant. It was a little over 11,000 to get everybody equipped with a vest, which is an important tool nowadays for officers. My officer's been running around without vests because I just don't have the money to buy it. But with that being said, I bought everybody a vest through grants. The cameras that I got now, I've got 6 left, so all my deputies have one. But I have 8 that we sent back because they broke. We're still, the jury's out on that to find out whether they just need batteries or they just need to be refurbished. I don't have, they gave us a number 700. I don't know if that's for each camera or 700 total to fix it. Now, if that's the case, I can probably get those fixed. I have money in my seizure fund that I wanted to use to fix that. But I don't know that they're going to be able to be fixed. The new price that they gave me was like $15,000 for those new cameras. But they want to have control over you. They want to be able to download your cameras and stuff like that. We do that ourselves now, and we save that money. But Axon is getting to a point where we want all the work. And if you want our cameras, you're going to have to pay this amount. They download it, they save it, and we do the same thing. So with that being said, I believe my sergeant has a camera right now that we're trying for 14 days. Those cameras come about a cost of about $6,000 total for these cameras. And what I like about the new ones, they're waterproof. The old ones aren't waterproof. So when it's raining, we got to take it off. And nowadays, you know, cameras are essential. They're vital. I've had several people come in and complain on my officers, and we review the video, and it turns out that what they thought happened never happened.
So the cameras, you said were 15,000, but the request,
No, the Axons that we have now, originally when we talked to them, they wanted 15,000 to replace the cameras that we
Okay.
got now. So we did some research on some other cameras. We found another camera that's just as good as the one we got
got it.
for a cost of
six.
$6,000.
I'm with you. Okay.
Okay, but what I want to do is if I can fix the cameras that I have now, I can keep them as backups. In case,
You said you had 8 right now that work,
I have
6 that work?
6 cameras that are working right now? Yeah, 6 cameras. I have a total of 14.
So you wouldn't have to have 15 new ones this year?
Well, I need to have backups. Well, if I get these fixed,
Yeah.
then I really wouldn't need any backups. So I probably could do with about maybe 10, somewhere around there.
Okay.
But the 14 camera comes at a cost of about $6,000. So we cut back on the capital cameras, we probably could save a little money there. But I don't know that we can fix the Axons that we have now, and it might be too expensive to fix them.
It costs
So-
6,000 for all of them?
It costs $6,000 to buy brand-new cameras.
I'd like-
And the good thing about the new cameras,
I'll help you buy them.
I was just about to say, I want to work with Teresa offline on that. I made a pledge to make sure everybody had body cams, and I want to help you with that too.
well, like I said, it's vital for our officers.
We agree.
I mean, we go, I mean, okay, so he's telling me I got 2 officers that don't have cameras right now. And what I did was I took my camera that I had, because I had a camera too, I gave it to my troops. He gave up his camera also to the guys because, you know, I want them to have the cameras, just, you never know. They're
What
just-
protects them too.
Exactly, well, it works both ways, exactly. And the cameras and the vests are mandatory in my department. It's a policy that created, that they will wear them, whether they want to or not. So it's not open for discussion, so we're not gonna get the cameras and put them in a box and leave them there,
Right.
like the vests.
Well, can I ask something? And I think y'all should have cameras. That's just a no-brainer. But you have 8 officers. Are you all working at the same time? Do y'all?
No, there's 4 of us working, 2 shifts. I
Okay.
have a shift that comes in at 6:45 till 3:21. Then I have another shift that comes in at 1:45 till 10:21.
Okay, so there are enough cameras then to cover them on
I
the
have,
shifts?
yes,
Yeah,
I've got enough for now.
Yeah.
But I know where
Ma'am,
you're
but
going with this.
See where I'm going?
It takes some time for the camera to recharge, about 6 to 8 hours, so there's no way 2 officers can shoot.
Good to know. That's why I'm asking.
And then we have to download, which takes about an hour sometimes, depending on how much they have on there. It takes about an hour to 2 hours to download a camera, which is what he does. And that's where the extra money Axon wants to charge for, is for downloading the cameras, storing all the video. When we do that ourselves,
And I'm all for getting the cameras, don't get me wrong, but I always know that in budget, you always ask for more than what you gotta have. That's why I ask you, can you do with less this year for the 15 cameras, go with 10?
I probably could, if I could get.
The others working.
If I could get the others
Gotcha.
working, then I could lower the cameras, and I could use the Axons as backups if we need for
Gotcha.
backups. And if I can't get them going, then I want the extras in the event that 2 or 3 cameras go down at the same time. I have a camera that I can give the guy. And normally what he does is he'll say, your camera needs to, okay, give me your camera, take this one, then we download them and we circle them. So they're just not sitting there and the battery's going bad on them.
Do we have money, capital outlay for money for that, for capital outlay? So what, I mean, do they have to request it or what? I mean, how do,
I was told that I had to put it on the budget.
I mean, but,
Am I correct? or-
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
well, you do, but I mean, have you had to request it from them too, though?
Well, this is a request of myself and Tyner and his staff know what the departments are requesting for equipment. And then we get to the process of when we go through the budget side of how much we want to set aside for each particular function of item. Because, yes, I agree, all the constables and sheriffs should have cameras, but then some of the other departments may want all radios, somebody may want a lot of computers. So we need to try to allocate this $1 million we have for capital outlay amongst how we want it, and try to see how the best function of doing this. And sometimes, yes, we do have the money available on the time to do this. So I don't think it'd be a problem for supplying cameras to everybody.
So it wouldn't come out of his budget?
No,
No, it won't
well,
come out.
this will never, what he's requesting is not in his budget.
It's
This
just the
Capital
capital.
capital outlay is in our capital outlay, our department, but they need to tell us what they were requesting. So Tyner, Teresa, myself, and Lisa can go through with the judge and y'all as well, and saying, here's what everybody wants from capital. And this is what we're trying to narrow it down to, what we're trying to say, what's most important that we can give access to.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, okay, well, thank you. I've seen no problem getting it.
Okay, good. And 2 more things that I'm also asking for. As we know, I have I have an administrative secretary and a senior clerk, and I'm asking for a step increase in their pay. Doesn't total to about $3,500 total for both of them. But Yolanda's been with us 20-plus years. She's very knowledgeable. She knows the job. She knows the ins and outs of the department, and of course, her help. Y'all were talking about the next man steps up. I'm a firm believer in that. If this person can't do the job, somebody has to be there to do the job, and which is what we're doing with Yolanda and the clerk. I'm having her train her because I told her what happens when you're not here and we need something. Who's going to do your job if nobody knows how to do it? I'm trying to learn her job too, just in case I have to step in for whatever reason, we step in. It's the way we work, when I'm out, he's there, somebody steps up to take over. So with that being said, you know, I look at my girls sometimes and, you know, I mean, we all want to make more money, of course. We all wish we could get paid a whole bunch of money, but, you know, I'd like to see an increase on their pay. My administrative secretary, she's going to go from a 17 to an 18. She would go from 34,000 a year to about 35,700 a year. And the senior clerk would go from 26,333 to 27,560, which brings the total increase to 2870, and then the benefits and stuff is 582. So that brings my increase up to about 3452 a year for the increase for the two young ladies that I have working for me. They play a vital role in our department. You know, they're behind the scenes. Nobody sees them too much. You know, they're the ones that are responsible for making sure the stuff gets mailed out, make sure the paperwork is put in the computer, taken out of the computer. One of the good things that we're doing now, and I believe Dale's aware of it, we're installing a system into our computers for the girls, and it's going to be able to tell me by officer how many papers the officer's serving, how many they're UTLing, how many we do a month, how many we do a week. So when this system is set, I should be able to go into this computer and say, okay, you want to know why I'm asking for this? This is why.
You know,
My deputy served.
You know, I support you, whatever you're saying here, I agree with you, but one of the things that my pet peeve here that I tell Dale, and I'm waiting for Dale's information, I don't think nobody should be making under 30,000. And I've brought this up year after year after year, that none of our staff should be under 30,000.
And I agree.
All of our staff should be 30,000, that's poverty level, 30,000 under poverty level. You know, and I'm waiting for Dale to give me that information to see how many do we have that's still under $30,000. I mean, these companies, people have been with us 5, 10, 15 years, and they're still under 30,000. That's ridiculous. I mean, no wonder they leave. And
Like my senior clerk, she's been with us 20-plus years. Matter of fact, June 7th was her 20th anniversary.
we're working on it, so.
I can tell you that HR, maybe they're not certified numbers, but we know how many are in between. I mean, I can tell you it's 70% of our county employees.
And I agree. And, you know, I'm going to fight for them just like I would my deputies and anybody else, you know. And if I can get it, you know, fine, that'd be great. If not, I understand. But we're always looking for ways to, and there's certain things like I asked for new furniture. We haven't had new furniture in over 20 years. One of my clerks, her desk is being held up by 2x4s. You know,
Well, and I'm new, obviously, and you and I have not had a chance. I would like to have a tour down there. I want you to know, because I feel like, and I appreciate that you've waited until budget time, but there are budget change orders during the year. And let me just say, when it comes to public safety, like body cams, you always have the right to come to our office and to make this request, and I want you to know that. Same thing with furniture. If I'm going to send Timothy down there, our risk manager. If anything's being held together, that is completely inappropriate. I will make sure that gets changed. We have an entire floor full of surplus furniture that I think sometimes people are, and I appreciate it. You're thoughtful enough to wait to when they tell you to wait, but sometimes we can't wait. And that's creating an environment that our employees shouldn't have to work in. So I want to help you with that now, not even waiting now.
with that being said, we did get approved for our furniture that we asked for, and I believe we asked for it about 2 years ago.
Okay?
We put it in the budget, but it's already been approved, the appeal's already gone through. Now it's just a matter of it getting delivered and brought. So we are getting the new furniture,
But you've been waiting 2 years for it?
pretty much. Yes, ma'am. But you know what?
Wow.
Better late than never. I'm getting it. And
Well, I'm
You know-
glad you see it that way. That's not how I see it, but
You'd be
I'll have to
surprised.
find out.
you'd be surprised what a new chair, a new desk does for an employee.
I would not be
Right now,
surprised.
my
I believe
deputies are
you.
using a flat white table. That's their desk. I got rid of the junk that was in there before. So
Yeah.
I'd rather have white tables. I replaced the carpet because it was nasty and they were getting sick because they have allergies and stuff. So we were able to get that out and we replaced it with tile, which is what I wanted in there. So perception is everything. So when the public comes to us a lot, when they come in there and they see these kind of things, they're like, really? So I need to keep my place looking decent for the public, and my employees are more important. You know, when they're getting sick and they're going home sick, they're going to the doctor, it's costing the county money. We're paying sick leave, we're paying doctor bills, we're paying medication, and it's a simple fix. So with that being said, the furniture would be a great, and we're gonna get it, which is a good thing. So I don't normally come up and ask for much in my budget. I pretty much stay within the helm, but sometimes you gotta go up there and say, you know what, I need this to operate. And without this, I can't operate effectively. I wanna continue to be effective in my job. I wanna continue to provide the service that we provide to the county as well as the citizens. The whole county, not just precinct 1, but the whole county. That's my goal. So with that being said, my last wish on my list is the 2 vehicles that we asked for. I asked for two more new vehicles at a total of $102,000, I think, total for the 2 new vehicles for the next fiscal year. I'm getting one this year, but I'm asking for 2 more for next year. Because like I said, I've got 4 Impalas, 14s, matter of fact, 5 years old, and they're pushing a little over 100,000 miles.
What kind of vehicles are you asking for?
SUVs. Well, that's what we're going to start getting. My understanding is we're going to start purchasing SUVs now instead of the.
Dale, you may want to speak to this. We have some interesting plans that I
Yes,
think will make you a lot happier.
Definitely agree with the constable and repair costs are again sky high and everything. The purchasing and I had a demo or a presentation from a vendor on possibly leasing our fleet. So what I would like to do is at some point in time, work with the court as well with Tyner and scheduling a budget workshop just to bring them in to do a presentation to y'all, determine whether that's something we want to do on leasing the fleet. What does that mean? We mean that at certain times, we would be replacing vehicles on a 2 or 4 year, every 2 or 3 or 4 years, we would be replacing a certain amount of fleet. The first year, the one they told us that the first time they would be replacing around 50 to 60 cars. We have around 200 vehicles in our entire fleet lot. Now, this only is for the police vehicles and standard trucks. This doesn't include heavy-duty vehicles. This is just the standard trucks. And what the proposal was they would replace the fleet as well as they would pay for the repairs. They would give us a certain level of this is the repair cost, and if it went over that, they would not charge us. And so they said for every car it would be $10,000 to $15,000, whatever the number is, and they would bring in your fleet. And for the constable's point, if one breaks down so severely, they would replace it.
Yeah, we've been exploring this, so this might be a really welcome piece of news. I mean, obviously, we need to receive more information, but we understand that there's a curve, right? And when maintenance is taking too much of your budget, you need to reassess. So sounds like you are evidence of that.
Right.
And purchasing is well aware, a lot of our fleet, especially
Yeah.
for the constables and the sheriff's office, are very old and are in the repair shop constantly. So that's kind of where, and as you saw in our last monthly report, our largest expense for P-cars was repairs and maintenance of vehicles. So that's something we want to address, and I'd like to have a budget workshop just for bringing them in to do a presentation. I know if this is something the court wants to do, we'd have to do our bids or whatever purchasing requires us to do. But when they come in to do a presentation, I would like to have someone from each of the constable's office here so they can, if they have any questions that they can address. Because as you said, they are not making any more vehicles for police patrol. So if we want police vehicles, they have to be SUV.
Well, and two, if you even leased them, you would have to equip them differently inside, correct?
Yes, correct. Now, they said they would have no problem with that.
Really?
They said they could have it, and they already have, I think they did a Webb County, and they did another county not too far from here that they do that they can take it to the shop that we asked them to do, or they can take it to the shop that they usually do to get them fit for our fleet as well as putting stripe on them.
And that would be included in the lease
That'd be included
price?
On the lease price, yes.
Not bad. That sounds good.
It's a
Certainly
very
doesn't hurt to
good
look.
plan.
You have to
And
worry.
that would eliminate us from having to purchase vehicles and.
A lot of time they don't have to
And
spend.
the way it is, they said that, of course, your lease costs would go up as they lease more fleet, but after 4 years, then they sell the old cars, and anything over cost, they give us.
Wow.
Good.
They give us the money, and it reduces our bill. So they would have to preside,
You know what?
it was enterprise cars, so we want to give you a workshop so y'all can see what we saw, and we think it's the right thing to do, and we think it'll save the county a lot of money.
And they would always look nice.
Yes.
Well, and one of the things I tell my officers is, and it's in the policy, county policy as far as our policy, that if you tear something up because of your negligence, you're gonna pay for it. And believe it or not, ask them if they haven't paid to repair some of the stuff on their cars, because I've had them
I
repair.
like that.
Because you know what? If you tear it up, you're gonna fix it. If it breaks, we'll fix it.
Well, and think about all the time that you're wasting looking for the best deal for brake pads or an oil change. This would eliminate all of your time so that you could devote it to where it should be.
Exactly.
So this is something, we'll include you when we do this workshop. Notice that you can be in the courtroom and be a resource witness as well.
This company did say they have numerous shops throughout the entire city and county Nueces that they would be able to go to cover this. So they have numerous shops, so there's not, you're not gonna be out of the way to going someplace. And like the constable was saying, it'll be a faster place if one car completely breaks down, we can get your car faster than
Exactly.
somebody else.
Yeah,
So.
no, not this, yeah.
Unless you want the old cars, let us know.
No, I mean, as long as I have a car that runs and runs good and I have the money to fix it, but the problem is that, you keep putting money into a 5-year-old car and it keeps breaking and breaking and breaking. At some point, you gotta cut your cost and say, you know what, let's get rid of it and get another car. It's more cost effective to buy a new car and put it to work than to continue spending money. I put like almost 5 Gs in that car and we're gonna get rid of it at the end of the year, or when I get my new car. And what are we gonna get for it when we sell it at auction?
And the
Nothing.
presentation where you said that they said the oldest amount of your fleet was 5 years old. Right now, we're lucky if it's not 20 years old.
Yeah, well, I think the oldest vehicles I have are about 5 years old. They're pushing about 100.
So as we said,
And while,
patrol vehicles would be a faster replace, yes.
are there any other questions before I make last comments here? Okay, since I'm taking advantage of the fact that you're here, if you wouldn't mind, this lovely lady here is Maggie Turner. She's the Chief of Staff to the County Judge's Office. If you would make sure that you make an appointment, or I'll make the appointment to go down to your office, I want to make sure that, I want to see everything that you want to show me and meet your staff. And second of all, I want to work with Maggie and Commissioner Gonzalez. He doesn't have to, but since he kind of offered, I would like to get you these body cams now. Once I know about a security risk, I can't wait 3 months till budget's over.
And-
It's already in my head. So let us work together with Teresa's office and identify funds that the county judge has and possibly Commissioner Gonzalez. Thank you.
And one thing, I invite all of y'all, whichever, whoever if you'd like to do a ride-along with my deputies, y'all are more than welcome to come.
Thank you.
Get in the car with my deputy so you can see what a deputy does during the day. We'd love to take you to these writ of possessions where we have to do
Yeah.
kickouts. You're familiar with them,
Right. That's good. Well,
So-
I just want to make sure that we take advantage of the fact that you're here. I know it's a little unrelated, but still related. And we'll work out the details with the auditor's office. Once I need to identify first funds, and then, but I don't want to wait for budget to kick in to appropriate these funds that are, quite frankly, they're low cost for the rate of return. So
right, yes,
I
ma'am.
want to get that to you
Okay.
immediately.
How soon can we get the cameras?
As soon as
Since
give
we
them the
procure,
6,000. Like I said, Sergeant is still, he's got the 14-day trial
Yeah.
on that one. And he said he had some issues, but he got it worked out. He seems to be working good. So I want to make sure we use the 14 days on it, and make sure that it's going to do what we want it to do before we go buy it, because I don't want to just jump in and say, because they're cheaper, buy them, and then turns out to be a nightmare. Now, with that being said, I continue to go to grants to look for grants to pay for things that we need. Grants is a good tool, and once you learn,
Are you going through Mike Robinson?
yes,
okay.
yes.
And
mhm.
we're televising right now, so Michael's probably listening, or a member of his staff, and so
Yes.
if they are, they're hearing this directive from me that we want them to get in touch with you. And I agree, please don't buy the cheapest, because they'll just break.
Right.
Buy the ones that are the best suited for your officers.
He played an important role in getting us the furniture that we needed. He came to the
Yeah.
table for us. He was very good, and we worked very well with him, so.
Great. Well, they're listening, so we're going to get this ball rolling. But having said that, I appreciate you presenting the budget and the good justification behind everything, including the reclassification of the people that work for you. And please let them know we thank them for, oh my goodness, decades of service.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, appreciate you. And now we're going to work with Melissa at Emergency Management. You know what? Melissa stepped out just a moment. You might check it, see Maggie, if Melissa is in the hallway and ask her to come in. Okay. This is a good coffee break, if anybody wants to get hot coffee behind you while she's coming in. Let me go ahead and turn to.
You working on my stuff, Joe?
Yeah, we're working on,
Hi, Melissa, welcome.
I'm doing my best, Commissioner.
Hi.
Morning.
Good morning, Melissa. Go ahead and take your time, set up. We've got it on the screen here in front of us. It's still on constables, but it's about to switch.
Or this one? Steiner? Okay.
You want to put it over there? I can switch it for you.
yeah.
It's kind of crooked. 'cause
I
it almost got
think it's
half
farther up.
Is it? It's probably 'cause it got bent one day.
There you go.
Okay.
No, excuse me.
Good morning, everyone. Morning. Thank you.
Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did I miss anybody? Did you want me to wait just a moment for Commissioner Gonzalez?
You know, I think he knows you're about to start. You know, we'll catch him back up. Why don't we start? We're about 30 minutes behind, so.
Okay.
But I don't mind you addressing something in a synopsis way once he comes back in. But go ahead and start.
Okay, sure. Well, good morning, Commissioners and Judge.
Good morning.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present our budget request and give us an opportunity to explain why we think the increase is needed to our budget. I created a quick presentation just to kind of do some comparative information so that you can see why I feel like some of my items are justified. So it's really important, the Office of Emergency Management, not just for this jurisdiction, but every jurisdiction. We've gone a pretty substantial amount of time without having a major disaster until 2017 when we had Hurricane Harvey. That's when some adjustment should have been made to our office because of the task load that was brought onto the office. And so most of what I'm asking for is going to assist in basically catching up to what we needed to assist with Harvey and long-term recovery, but also taking us one step closer to what the office needs to look like in the future. So right now, we're a post-disaster jurisdiction. So being in a post-disaster environment, there's so much more that we do that's outside of our daily tasks that puts a lot of burden on the office. So I know most of you are aware that our office consists of 2 personnel. It's myself and then my deputy Kat. So our office covers all hazards in all phases of emergency management. And I'm not going to explain the Office of Emergency Management tit for tat because I know you are very familiar with it. But right now, the focus in the realm of emergency management is on best practices, lessons learned, and looking forward to the future. One of the biggest things is making sure that, and this is something that came out of Hurricane Harvey, is making sure that offices of emergency management are run by licensed officials, people that are experienced in emergency management, have degrees in emergency management. The way it's been in the past is that people have worked their way up to emergency management, usually coming from law enforcement, fire, the military. And so there's a shift now. There's degrees in emergency management that didn't used to exist. And so we're changing the paradigm of emergency management. One thing that our office should be able to do that we can't really afford to because our staff is so small is contribute to training and putting on exercises. So on Friday we had our full-scale exercise that was sponsored by the state. That took a lot of coordination to put together, but it's an amazing opportunity for everybody that participates in a disaster for Nueces County and some of the other local, state, and regional partners that we work with to come together and practice what would really happen before it happens. And we don't get very many opportunities to do that because it takes a lot of coordination, it takes a lot of work, and it takes resources. That's something we should be able to easily provide to our county and to our ride-out team and to our embarkation hub staff is regular exercise and training. That's not something that our office can do regularly because we just don't have the manpower or the resources. One of the most important things to think about with the Office of Emergency Management is that it extends so much farther than just Nueces County. What we do is we collaborate and we work with our local partners, but also state and regional and federal partners. So what we do primarily is not here in the courthouse, and it's not here in Nueces County. It's in the entire region. And we do a lot of work with the state and our federal partners. So we are a much bigger office than just here in Nueces County. So if you'll flip to the first page, I think this is really important because our office is so small. One of the big concepts in emergency management, especially for businesses and government, is continuity of operations. We cannot have that in our office when there's only two of us. The tasks are divided out, and so one person is responsible for a set of tasks and the other person has the other half of tasks, or less than half would be the deputy. But the issue with that, and I learned that myself when the EMC left in November, is that I had these huge gaping holes of knowledge because they weren't things that I actually did in my everyday work. It was something that was the EMC's responsibility. So the only way, you'll see a whiteboard here. This whiteboard is something that I started when I took over as the EMC because I had no idea everything that our office did. It's a lot. It's a lot to kind of understand and to manage. And this is a board. I'm not finished yet. I have the last 3 squares. This is something that I am absolutely going to finish before I take my leave because my deputy is so new that I can't expect for her to know all of these things. But they are constantly going on. The training, hurricane season, we're just in the beginning of hurricane season. Our hurricane conference, even though it's over, it usually takes 10 to 8 months to actually put the conference on. So we've already booked the dates and we're already starting to work on the conference for 2020. And so I'll have this board before I leave, but it shouldn't necessarily be this way. We should have enough staff in our office that are responsible for different tasks, that there's that continuity when one person leaves. And this is the only way that I could think of to ensure that not only I was getting everything done that our office is responsible for, but that my deputy will have something to look at that guides her when I leave. And so just looking at it, you can see, especially if you look at the working groups, all of the groups that we participate in, from local all the way to federal groups, groups with the Seaport, planning groups, exercise groups, these are essential for us because this puts us face to face with all of the people that we'd work with during a disaster. We're responsible for maintaining the emergency management plans for Nueces County, the hazard mitigation plans. Those all have annexes that have to be updated regularly. They're approved through Commissioners Court, approved through the state, and then we can have them uploaded. We can't do our job and we can't activate in a disaster without these plans being up to par. And we also don't get our emergency management performance grant money if our plans aren't up to date. So there's a lot that our office is responsible for. It's the work of multiple people, but in my budget request, I am simply asking for one other person. I don't want to ask for too much at one time, but I really should be asking for 4 more staff members. So at this point, I'm asking for one. Originally, we had kind of selected it as like an administrative person, but this person really needs to be deemed an emergency management specialist because not only are they part of the emergency ride-out team, but they are a member of the Office of Emergency Management. So I need them to have some training in emergency management, some fundamental knowledge of emergency management, and I also need to be able to provide them with basic training. So on this budget request, most of what has increased is because I've asked for an additional position. The only other increase I have on there is for my salary, and I wanted to at least compare it to, I say a comparable office, which would be risk management, only because they've got 2 people as well and they have to do with safety. Nothing else about our office is comparable. What we do and how we do our job every day and what we're involved in is completely different. But we're an office that has 2 staff members and has to do with safety, public safety, and courthouse safety, Nueces employee safety. And so the request on the salary is to at least be the same pay grade as the risk management director. The other increases would be for the overtime that the new staff member would require. I also have the ITs getting the tablets and the air cards, so that's something that as a part of our ride-out team, we're required to have. The $500 additional dollars under professional services, they are trying to make it a requirement for emergency management professionals to be licensed. So one of those certifications, if you pick the SEM certification, the Certified Emergency Management Coordinator certification, the test for that is $500. So I've only asked for one, $500 for one certification, and that would be for myself as the Emergency Management Coordinator if something is passed, so that I have it in my budget to get that certification I need to continue as an emergency management official per the new state law that could exist. The additional $1,000 under other services is that our field is ever changing. Every active shooter incident, every hurricane, it's constantly changing, and so training is an essential thing, and we do it regularly. We go to conferences, we learn lessons learned at these conferences. It's where we meet people, network, and collaborate, and so it's essential for the new staff member to be able to attend some of these training opportunities. And again, they wouldn't just be an administrative assistant, they would be part of the emergency management team. So I just wanted to compare 2 different jurisdictions, Nueces County to Galveston County. I know a lot of y'all are familiar with Galveston County. There's so many similarities in Galveston County, and actually it's easier to see them on the printout because it lies together on the same page. But the population, the square mileage, the emergency service districts, the independent school districts that both of the jurisdictions have, they both have a major body of water, the Bay, Corpus Christi Bay, Galveston Bay. They both have seaports and petrochemical industry present. The hazards are very similar. There's a barrier island. Galveston's a barrier island. Mustang Island's a barrier island. So there are very, 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 very many similarities between Galveston County and Nueces County. And looking at the Office of Emergency Management for both of those counties is really interesting. And this is just, I just wanted to put this in here to kind of justify even me asking for a little bit more in my pay. Not only to be comparable to a similar department within within Nueces County, but just to get a little bit closer not only for myself, but in the future, hopefully my deputy as well as what would be the emergency management specialist. I pulled the data for Galveston County off of their 2018-19 budget. You can see the difference in pay as well as the actual department's budget. So what Galveston County is capable of doing is something that in the future I hope that we can. I hope we have a full emergency operations center. I hope that we have a full staff. One of the things that I love to do that I can't do here is train. I don't have the time to stop and train. I don't have the resources to train, and we really don't have the space to do it either. I have a lot of different certifications that would allow me to teach different courses. It's just very difficult. So what we do is we piggyback off of other jurisdictions that are providing the training. Even the 300, 400 class, Corpus Christi Office of Emergency Management hosts that regularly. And of course, they're able to bring in a lot of people to come into their emergency operations center to provide the training. But there's a lot of other training that we could do that I just can't do with the space that I have, the resources, or the time. And the other thing that's really important to me, because that's how all of this started for me, is volunteering and the different organizations that we can have here have a huge presence, like our CERT team and our Medical Reserve Corps. I want to be able to really have a section of our office, because we rely so heavily on volunteers after a disaster, that really focuses on the volunteers and training the volunteers and having them organized and having them participate. We had the Community Emergency Response Team activated, I believe, in 2015 as a Coastal Bend CERT team, and then it fizzled out. And then when I came in the office, it was something, I was a member of a CERT team. I'm a trainer to be able to teach CERT members and certify them. And I wanted to be able to participate in those things, but the CERT team had kind of fizzled out because there's no one that can hold on to that. It's a whole entire program in itself, and be able to provide them with constant opportunities for training and practice so that they stay interested. And so I was lucky enough to find somebody that's not in emergency management, that has a little bit more time to dedicate to it, that was also certified as a program manager for CERT, that has now taken over the Coastal Bend CERT team. And I'm so excited that we have her, because she's got them involved, and now she's working with TXR, Texas Search and Rescue. They've been doing water rescue training, and they're providing these folks training that I would love to be participating in. I just don't have time to. So I just wanted to kind of compare very similar counties as far as the hazards, the population, all of the things that kind of make emergency management focus on certain areas. So the other thing I just want to touch base on real quick is the different things that our office does. So there's incidents and there's events. So we cover both of those, but it's really important to understand that emergency management is ongoing, and incidents take lots of coordination and are ongoing, and the only thing that we deal with is not hurricanes. So I've just kind of put a list of a couple of different things that have occurred, and then also things that we have multiple occurrences of. And so we had Harvey, the long-term recovery for Harvey. I mean, long-term recovery for a major hurricane can take a decade or more. So we have long-term recovery for Harvey that's going to continue on for years, and we're intimately involved in so many different aspects of that. The snowstorm that we had 5 months after Harvey that dropped 9 inches of snow in Corpus Christi, things like that, winter storms, floods. We had the long-term flood event from September to November that took a lot of our time. Anytime our office is activated, we're doing 3, 4, 10 times as much work just managing the incident, but it doesn't mean that the rest of our work doesn't stop. And then, of course, hurricane season requires a lot of monitoring, and that goes on for half a year, June 1 through November 30th. And then we have events. Events for us are incredibly important, because this is an opportunity for us to provide people in our region with training, presentations, networking opportunities, and then, of course, for all of the members here at Nueces County that are part of our Ride-Out team, to be able to have some input and some training as well. So the Coastal Bend Hurricane Conference is the biggest event. It's one of the only events that we host as kind of Nueces County. We don't have time really to do any others, but we try to do preparedness fair every year. As far as the events go, they take a lot of coordination, and they usually take months and sometimes years to prepare, depending on it. So I just wanted to kind of clarify the difference between incident and event, and that we do both in our office. And lastly, the last page in the packet that I handed you is just kind of a summary, a position summary, and some essential duties that the additional position I'm asking for would be responsible. And this kind of takes the burden off of the more, I hate to say minuscule tasks, because they're all just as important as everything else that we do, but it's kind of like the day-to-day tasks that we don't have the opportunity to stay 100% focused on, because sometimes we're not here, sometimes we're doing training, sometimes we are in meetings all day long, and our meetings are essential, so it's essential for us to be gone to those. We have to show our face, we have to be involved in all of the different agencies that have things going on, so that we have awareness. And so I just wanted to provide you with kind of a summary of what this position I'm asking for would be responsible. But I do want to give you an opportunity to ask questions. Sorry I'm rambling on. I really am passionate about emergency management. I'm excited about what Nueces County Office of Emergency Management can look like in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm going to open it up for questions while I write my notes here. Commissioner Vaughn.
You know, I think this department deserves a lot of extra attention for what it is, and it's kind of alarming to me because you're telling me you have one person under you, is that correct? And that's it?
Yes.
And you go on family leave when? About?
August 16th is my due date, so
And we're in the
planning on working until
yeah.
August 15th.
And we'll be in the midst of hurricane season, and the role that the judge plays in this is so important. So she's got to have backup.
Yes.
So I'm concerned about this. I can't believe that we only have one person in there. That
And
really,
it's you know, we, like I said, we focus and we have classes and training on continuity of operations, and we reach out to our local businesses and agencies, and we push continuity of operations, and it's kind of crazy sometimes to think that we don't have it within our own office.
well, could that person do what you do when you're gone, honestly?
So all of the circumstances are particular here, but she has already really impressed me. She comes from an actual county office of emergency management, so her experience is very relatable, as it was for a county office of emergency management. City structure is very different, so that would be very different knowledge. And she's really works well under pressure. I have given her substantial task loads since she's been here. She started on April 1st, and she's doing our reentry program. That's pretty massive. But I picked her because I believed that she would be able to pick this office up and continue running with it in my absence so shortly. I have faith because I was here only 5 months when we had a Category 4 hurricane and was able to continue to run and learn and hang on, that she will as well. The other thing that I spoke to the judge about the other day is if we do have something pointing towards us, the first thing that we're going to do, the first thing that I'm going to do to make sure that our office and our county and our region is protected is call request to the state for what's called an incident management team. That's a team of highly trained people that fill each of the roles in emergency management. So we didn't call for one after Harvey, which we didn't necessarily need it per se because we did not get as direct of a hit as Rockport did. What we needed that team for was to relieve our positions. So nobody should have to work 24 hours or more especially during a disaster, especially when you don't know if your home is standing still. There's so much other stress going on. So you want to rotate 12-hour shifts. So what the incident management team does is when I step out as the emergency management coordinator, there's somebody as an incident commander that takes my role. We have Dale as our finance agent, our finance and admin section officer. So when he takes off after his 12 hours, there's somebody that's trained in that same exact area to come in. Rockport, after Harvey, they got an incident management team from Oklahoma, and even though they were from another state, we've all been trained under the incident command structure. And we all follow those same guidelines. And so with the exception of some very county-specific information, they understand their roles. So I would bring in an incident management team immediately. That would be the first step. So in this particular hurricane season, if I'm gone and something happens, that's going to be the first step we take. That way we make sure our office is covered.
Okay, that's good to know, because I know you have to go.
I don't really have a choice
You
at
don't
some
have a
point.
choice, yeah.
But if there's nothing major pointing at us, I live 5 miles down the road, so I'm a phone call away. I'm right there. My plan is to continue to be present for Kathy, my deputy, so that if she has any questions or something's pointing at us or she's concerned about something or she has a question, I'm a phone call away and I can continue to mentor her even during my time off.
And although this is budget workshop, I'm going to take advantage, Melissa, maybe for July 10th, come and give us a report. We'll get it maybe on the agenda. Give us a brief report of how we handled our state exercise, because I think Commissioner Vaughn's question is probably on the forefront of everybody's mind. And I think it would be great to give that background so that everybody knows we have this incident team on standby, and that, and I can make comments since I was a part of that EOC about how comfortable I feel with the process that we have in place coming into August, so.
And I feel incredibly, this state-sponsored full-scale exercise only happens once every 3 years or so for our region. And so I couldn't think of better timing than it falling this year, because we have a new judge, a new sheriff. I'm new in the EMC position. Our deputy is new. We have a lot of new people and new roles. So it gave everybody a chance to see live what happens both at the EOC as the ride-out team, and then also at the fairgrounds for evacuation and repatriation.
So if you don't mind, Tyner, if you make a little mental note, make sure that gets on the agenda, just an update, to inform.
And I'll be building an actual after-action review for the exercise.
Right.
I've been slowly getting in input, people's feedback that have participated in the exercise. We had the Bexar County observers that have already given me their feedback. So we've got a lot of feedback coming in. I'm going to put that together in a report, and I hope hopefully I'll have it done by July 10th so that I can present that to you.
And Melissa, I'm going to ask for more questions here if anyone else has it, but again, I didn't have a chance to do this with everybody, but I did have a chance to do this with you. So commissioners, I've had a significant time with Melissa on her budget and support these changes. But the other thing that just dawned on me is when I met the Bexar County folks, you were an intern almost in that office, and I wanted to encourage you to do whatever you can in the next fiscal year to recruit a great fellow or resident or intern, whatever the appropriate terminology is, to help do what they did for you, because you're a great teacher, and B, to have those extra hands. Who knows how it could develop as we think about growing our Office of Emergency Management. So just wanted to throw that out. I don't know how all that gets done with the institutions, but let our office know what it would take or require. Again, I'm not saying that's a substitute for what you've asked for. This would be an extra.
This would be one of those things where I say we don't have a whole lot of output from our office. So being able to train an intern and put them out, and it gives me a unique opportunity as well. I'm a doctoral student at JSU, Jacksonville State University, and I love to teach and I love to train. So it also gives me fulfillment in my job as well. But it gives us as Nueces County the opportunity, like Bexar County, to say, she's ours. We made her.
Right.
And I'd love to be able to put out some people like that. And when I came into the office, we had a girl that had graduated or was about to graduate, and she was interning for Christopher, the previous EMC, and she went on after her internship as soon as she graduated, and now she's a deputy EMC for Farmers Branch, which is north of Dallas. So we want to be able to produce in our office. We don't want to just maintain. So that's one of the changes that I want to see for this office is producing.
And I also want to make a comment, not as an advocate. I'm not saying it in that, as we say in the law, it's just for the truth of the matter asserted. And that is that we lost 2 emergency management coordinators to other higher paying jobs. I'm thrilled to have Melissa Munguia, but I'm mindful that the facts show that other counties and other entities are taking the best and brightest from this county because of higher pay. Are any other questions, commissioners? Okay, well, thank you. We're actually getting back on time, and I appreciate the very good job description, because I think that's part of the hard part of really figuring out the scope is this last page, and I know you added that, so that was very good.
Well, thank
Okay.
you so much,
Thank
Commissioners
you.
and Judge, for your time.
Thank you. At this time, the last one, Commissioners, we have is from the District Clerk, and I see our District Clerk is here, Ms. Lorenzen, so just going to get us flipped to that section.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I won't take up a whole lot of time because I'm really focused pretty much on one area in my office this budget time, and that's my continuing efforts to get a pay raise for my clerks. And so I'm coming again with that request. I requested it last year, and I'm requesting it this year, but I believe I have a better solution than just asking you for additional monies. The role of the clerk in my office has changed drastically because of e-file and because of the mandate by the Supreme Court to go paperless. So the expectations for a clerk is higher than it has been in the last couple of years. I've got to have a clerk that, first of all, is technologically savvy. Everything is computerized now. Attorneys have to e-file, and that's a whole animal all of itself. There's rules and regulations that govern that e-file that my clerks must learn and must be aware of the changes that are made, because if they get something that's filed and it's not properly filed, we have to send it back to the attorneys, and we have to have a pretty good reason why. So we have to be vigilant over what we know for e-filing and vigilant over what we know for the documents. My clerks take in hundreds and hundreds of civil documents, criminal documents, family documents, probate documents, and they pretty much know more or less than an attorney or even a judge. They're very savvy with their knowledge of documents. That's very important. So, and also we are facing an increase in cases coming to our office every year. The criminal cases that we're receiving seem to be going up every year. We have the district attorney's office, I believe, is going to start filing more of their cases, so that's going to affect my criminal department. Civil is always increasing. We also, with the civil, we take pro ses across the counter who want to file their own. So those cases increase as well. So what I'm wanting to try to do is contain and keep a stable workforce in my department. Like Judge Canales said, the best and brightest are getting taken away from the county, and I have felt that as well. And when they walk out the door, all of that knowledge goes with them, and it takes us a while to gain that back and get our office moving forward again. And because of what we do, we support the courts. We support the courts. We're the gateway to the courts. We're the ones that all that paperwork has to come through first. And we're the ones that have to take care of it until the very end. So it's important for me to try to maintain what I already have in my office. And I went to Julie Guerra at Human Resources to get some advice on what she thought I could do. What I would like to do is the entry-level position in my office is a Senior Clerk 1. And I would like to have that changed to a Senior Clerk 2. That's the second level position. And so I went to Julie and asked her how that possibly could be done, and her suggestion was if I had a senior clerk position that was open, if I would eliminate that and take the monies and use it to reclassify those six. I could reclassify 6 of my senior clerk 1s to a senior clerk 2, and I'm willing to do that. And so if you will look at the additional personnel request form for 3530, that is what I have done. I have reduced the senior clerks and increased the senior clerk 2 pay. It would normally cost the county $18,012, but with the senior clerk 1 position, which is starts at a little over $25,000, I would be able to use that money to cover that $18,000 increase, to make 6 of my senior clerk 1s senior clerk 2s. And so that's what I'm requesting as far as that goes. The next thing that I am requesting is I'm looking at Code 5126, the salaries for our temporary employees. I'd like to also use some of that money from the senior clerk 1 position that'll be eliminated to increase the temporary employee information budget item from 11,000 to 6,000, although the 6,000 will not be an increase on the part of the county. That will be also taken out of that senior clerk 1 position. So what I'm planning to do with that is I would like to get at least 2 part-time employees who would be available to assist with taking off some of the duties that my 4D clerks have, possibly working in the criminal department to take some of the load off of the clerks down there, and whatever we need. We have projects that need to be handled. We've got a project from the juvenile courts for expunctions that need to be done. We're also looking at some other projects. For instance, we have BVS forms that are used in adoption or divorce. We have about 9 boxes of those that need to be taken care of. And we have transfer of cases between courts. We could have a temporary do that instead of a clerk. So that's what I'm looking for with having enough money for an entire year, not just for half a year, but for an entire year to support 2 part-time employees. And that would help us with some of the overflow that we have in our department. The next personnel issue that I want the Commissioners Court to look at is the position that is in my Department 3510, which is the jury administration. If you'll look at the additional personnel request form under 3510, I have a senior clerk 1 in that position. Her salary is at a 13.2, and I would like to increase it to a 15.2, which is a senior clerk 2, level 2 for her. And that monies I'm going to take from reducing the temporary personnel budget in that department by $3,000, by the amount of money that's needed to give her the senior clerk 2 position. I'm doing that because we've been able to save monies with the online feature of that. Our temporary employees, we've been able to cut back 1 day, full day of having jurors come in to the central jury room. It's just down to 1 day. The hours spent on Monday have been cut back as well. And so I looked at that temporary personnel budget and saw that I could take monies from there and take it and use it to give a promotion, give an increase to that lady that's in my jury administration. So that's what I'm doing with the salaries. The only other areas that I am looking at and asking for an increase is I would like to take back the money that I gave last year. I'd like to take it back for my office expense and supplies category. We still have a court that is not paperless. They're not using, we're not e-filing for them. And so we must still create their files, print out their documents, so we still need to order paper, special case jackets for the files, ink to print the documents out. We have a significant increase in the filing of affidavits of indigency, where people do not pay any of the cost of filing, any of the fees related to filing, any of the copy request, postage, whatever, all of that is absorbed by the district clerk's office. I do not have a technology funds, and last year I really had to replace a lot of the equipment that we use, computers, scanners, label makers, printers. I ended up having to order out of the office supply fund. I have requested in the capital outlay for some funds to go forward. I'm anticipating having to replace some more equipment in the next budget year, so I would like commissioners to consider giving me somewhat of a capital outlay budget for next year. One more category that I need an increase in is the travel expenses for my department. I have two clerks, one from the probate department and one from the guardianship. She's the guardianship clerk for Judge McCoy. At one time, she worked for Judge McCoy. She was under his department, but she's since transferred to my department so she can use my stamps and my forms for her guardianship. And Judge McCoy would always take her with him to a guardianship conference, and he requests that continue. And so I need some extra travel money to cover that particular conference, and also to be able to continue to send my probate clerk to the Texas College of Probate Judges Conference so they can stay up on the changes in the legislation. So that is my request to commissioners for budget. What my goals are for this coming year is to continue to work on personnel. We've got some job descriptions that are about 20 years old, and we have some job titles that need to be updated as well. I'm also going to work towards getting the archives straightened out on the 6th floor and also in the warehouse. And do any of you have any questions?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I really appreciate you trying to take care of your staff here, but I'm really disappointed. Again, I don't know you were here or not when constable here, and I'm disappointed to see that although you're moving them up, they're still going to be under 30,000.
Yes, sir.
And this is really, we talked about, and I think all your staff should be 30,000 and above, and
Their education alone.
and they've been here 10 years and 12 years, 15 years, and then that really, to me, I think we need to look at this real seriously, because you're right, we'll lose them. You train them and you lose them, and but I appreciate bringing them up to 28.5, whatever. But I think that we shouldn't even have a staff at no lower than 30. But again, I'm going to try to do what I can. I've done.
I understand, and that's why I just asked for that, and I'm willing to eliminate a position so that I can, because they do work overtime. It's a lot of work for them.
You eliminate a position, but then you work overtime, then there goes that money you save. So
right.
It doesn't really make it. Doesn't really. There's no
And
sense.
we've got to support the courts. They can't falter, and so we're doing the best we can.
Well, we'll
We
see.
are,
We'll see what we can do.
and we appreciate it.
At least I know what I can. See
I appreciate it. I understand.
How many part-timers do you have?
Right now, we have just one, and that's vacant right now.
Okay, and then why is there, I always look at actuals and what your budget is. There for the jurors, there's a big difference there between what you actually use and what your budget is. Why is that?
For the jury,
Yeah, you got,
now?
your actual is 301 and your budget's 540.
This was back when we were having jury panels coming in without an online paneling. We just recently started the online paneling very recently. It's been only about 2 years since we've had it, so that's when we first started seeing in 16, 17, 17, 18. We've reduced it down from 17, 18 from 640 to 540. We'll probably be reducing it some. However, we just learned that the legislative session has approved and passed a law that now the county court law juries have to be 12, not 6.
Okay.
So it's going to be a little additional cost. Now, I don't feel that we need to increase it because I'm proposing around a 380,000 estimate this year for jury. And if we include the county court law judges, I still think that 540 is probably way too much like you're considering. But maybe this year we may not want to lower it too much until we know exactly the impact of the additional cost that the state has impacted on us. But I would feel free to at least lower it down to 500,000 or
Well,
maybe
my thought was it could help
470.
her budget if you
Yes.
could come down off of that.
Yes.
No doubt, and I sent that email to Dale just last night on the 12-man jury. There is a silver lining, and the silver lining is that if both parties agree, you can stay with a pettit jury of 6. I mean, there's a lot of considerations here. But yes, I think it'll impact. The only thing I was going to comment on, and I think that it may be not this fiscal year, Ann, but maybe, we work together. I love both your goals. And both the goals are tremendous dollar savings that could justify, I see future increases in salary being justified by your short-term and long-term goals. And I'd like to help you achieve those because I know that, again, when I feel like a broken record, but, in my 5 for 5 goals, I appreciate when the budget packets mimic what I'm saying is my personal goal for the county, which is efficiency and technology to achieve it. And there's no doubt that if we got, which we didn't have success, but had we had success in that may versus shall legislation that we wanted this legislative session, we could have probably put 6 figures more in our bank account. We're not giving up. We just got started late. That one is a really, it's a nuance. And then once you make something statewide, it gets very tricky on our online jury system. But to be able to keep those jurors in the pool can really save us a lot of money. But having also your credit card machines being available for over-the-counter payments is something that, these are not, they're so reasonable, your requests. I have to really train my brain not to be mad that we are not already there. I have to just tell myself, try not to think about what the rationale was that we haven't been more modern. Let's just get there. But in that vein, I think that we can you and I can work together on these 2 goals and get them implemented, because they're going to bring, what Commissioner Gonzalez said is so true, is this is an excellent beginning, but it's nowhere towards our goal. So being able to bring dollars back in, plus, the over budgeting, and Dale and I are both sensitive to this 12-person. We don't know what it's going to cost, but we can run some numbers based on county court at law. It only affects Commissioner statutory county court at law courts, but we have those. So now my question is, which is the court that we don't e-file? You said I'm still doing paper for a court.
105th District Court is the only one.
Oh, Judge McCoy.
No, Judge Pulcher.
Pulcher, yeah.
He's the only one, and.
And why is that? Can we get him online? Because that's, I think at some point, we need to make that our goal too. That'll save us a lot of money.
Judge, the mandate was for e-filing. It was not to go paperless.
Oh,
It was for family law and civil cases to be e-filed.
right.
But there was nothing on the mandate that said that all courts had to go paperless. So all of we have 7 courts, district judges, and county court at law judges that are paperless for family and civil.
Right.
The only one that is not is the 105th District Court, which we have to print out for family and civil cases.
It's his decision.
That is choice or what?
Again, Judge, the mandate was to e-file.
Right.
And not to go
No, and I appreciate the facts, and I want to visit with him. There might be a very good justification, but he'll have to come and share that with us because this is an example of inefficiencies, right? And it's hard to change. We all know that. It's really hard to change.
It is a one court that splits time between us and Kingsville and Clayburgh.
Right. But they e-file it, yeah. Well, look, it's coming, so you can resist now or you can resist later. I mean, but it's coming. You're not gonna, you're harder later. So maybe we can help in that regard. But I am glad to have the clarification. Yeah, when I heard 5, I was thinking County Court at Law number 5, but they're fine. Yeah, they're fine.
That was going to be my one question I had in your whole presentation. I understand and agree with what you're asking for, but at the cost of you having to ask for a budget increase because someone is not following what the general trend of being efficient and just what probably best practice, that's a concern for me. And so with everyone tightening their budgets and all the directors and department heads and elected officials really scrutinizing their budgets, for you to have to take on a cost for someone else's actions, I really have a hard time with. So I'm looking forward to that, Judge, to hear what your conversation is, or if we have the judge come in, because that is not something I will support, even though you need that cost, even though it hurts you, even though you're the ones that's trying to provide the work that's needed for it. I have real heartburn with that anyone would not make it more efficient, more cost-effective for you or for anyone else to operate with our tax dollars.
Yeah, and not just, I'll follow up. I'll follow up. Yeah, I'll follow up. The other thing I just want to point out is, your year-to-date expenses, I always get a kick out of it when people say, cut your budget, and then they do it for you anyway. And then your expenses are your expenses, right? And so to me, it's a silly game, and it's a very unrealistic one. So I've made a personal note that, that it is what it is, and you can, if it makes you feel better, put a low number, but your year-to-dates indicate that your expenses are way higher than the budget, and therefore your budget is not correct at the $21,000 mark. So out of everything you said, the one thing that is super clean and clear, and from a business perspective, is that we have not allocated correctly for your office expenses that are what they are. There's no change there.
We don't get rid of anything unless really the IT tells us the warranty's up or they can't fix it. And,
I mean, we hear that from everybody else too, or we gave up the money for office expenses.
Right.
And now we're short.
And I've had, my guy comes to me, can we buy this thing? Can we buy, well, what is it? Okay, I guess we wait.
I know, I struggle with all this, again, it's hard to not be critical when we're all doing the best we can, but clearly we're not doing the best for our county folks if we're not giving them the resources they need to do their jobs. So anyway, I feel good about understanding everything, but I will say that I had the opportunity to really, and I enjoyed the process. Since this is my first process, I was able to, out of the departments we've heard today, I sat down with 2 of them. If it's all right, I might inquire if we might spend another 30 minutes, because when I go item by item, I really learn. And once it's up here, it's going nowhere. It's staying there, and I'm able to regurgitate it at any time until I say purge. But for this business fiscal cycle, that's how I learn. And so I may ask Maggie to reach out to you, and Teresa sits with me. And I thought it was a very good exercise. And so yours has a big budget request, so let's do that. It won't take more than half hour. And my office will reach out one more time. Okay, super. How about anybody else? Anybody other questions?
I would just say this, Judge, I agree with you about not having enough to operate and deal, but I still think we have to be ever mindful of the money that we've got, because every group that came up here today asked for budget increases. So when we get to that point at the end, we're not going to be able to give everything. We're just not. So I think we always have to be mindful of what we're spending. No matter if we gave you $5,000 more, you've got to be mindful of what we're spending.
Well,
And I know you will be.
The notices from Cognos every month has been a great help to me, to be able to look at my budget and as it is, so.
They're every week.
Every week, oh, great, every week, okay, there's so many emails that I get that, okay, they're every week. But every week has been fantastic to be able to really stay on top of that budget and see what we're doing, so thank you all very much.
And you know what's, and I mentioned this, but I know that we're working off a certain type of software, but I'm doing the math right now, it's not like it's a problem, but it's always helped when you see a variance like that, an anomaly, if to put the percentage, that's the variance. So for example, year-to-date, you budgeted 21,315, but the year-to-date 76. So in that case, you're 300%, over. That's not an appropriate budget. So when someone comes and says, I want to raise my budget by $1,000, but that only represents a 2% increase or a 3% increase, right? You can't look at it the same way as yours, which is a complete disregard for reality. Does that make sense? You just get the winner chicken dinner from me today because that one's bad, And anyway, with that, I'm going to hush. And is there anything else? Okay, if not, I'm going to gavel us out. How about anything else, everybody? Okay.
Just a reminder, we're meeting tomorrow. No. Yes, tomorrow, 9 a.m.